Happiness is a habit I am developing. Happiness is created, not waited for. Now, this is an acceptance statement from the New Life program. I'll include a link for that in the description below. So, happiness is a habit. Now, if that's true, then the opposite could also be true, right? Is unhappiness also a habit? Hi there, I'm Jess, and this is episode 11 of our Quitting Drinking series. And if you're finding value in these videos, please give me a like and maybe even consider subscribing. But if you're just tuning in and want to catch up, I will include a link to the entire playlist in the description below. Also, I'd appreciate any feedback in the comments section below, but I do want to say, if you could please try to keep things kind and supportive to other people who are commenting. I just want this to be an environment of mutual respect and understanding. So today, let's explore how happiness is a habit that we can develop. Let's also talk about whether it's something we can create or if it's something we have to actually wait for. Something that can only happen when, the stars align in our favor. We're also going to discuss how it's affected by our use of alcohol. Does alcohol affect our quest for happiness? Do we put conditions on our happiness? Can we choose it? Is that even how it all works? So let's dive in. So a lot of people who are quitting alcohol are discovering a lot of the negative impacts of alcohol use on their lives and have started to express how alcohol is just a big lie. While in society it's portrayed as a means of experiencing joy and fun and, relaxation, that's why it is everywhere. We celebrate with it, we socialize with it, we relax and unwind with it. Yeah, sure, that all sounds great, but here is where it can be like a double-edged sword. That euphoria, that pleasure of it only lasts for a short time. And we humans have these weird quirks where, pleasure in the immediate is more important than any potential dangerous long-term consequences. It's apparent in our addictive behaviors. Why do we get caught in, the spirals of doom scrolling on our phones? Why do we overeat when we're not even hungry? The list of addictions could go on and on. But I would propose that most of us do this because we're pursuing something that's elusive and we're looking in all the wrong places. There's this kind of emptiness that we're trying to fill, a need for fulfillment that's always just out of reach. But at the same time, we don't even know what we are chasing. We're always running away from reality, but we are never comfortable right here. Right here is the only reality there is, but our minds are always projected somewhere else other than right here. And this just increases our sense of disconnectedness or dis-ease, and drinking just seems to put a band-aid on that. But those of us who are caught in this cycle, we know that it's not working. We know how it is increasing our dis-ease, our distress, but we've become stuck in this cycle where happiness just seems impossible. This is where incredible courage comes in, and being caught in that cycle of unhappiness that seems to be perpetuated by dependence on alcohol is really difficult to break free from. In my last video, I talked about surrender. Surrender is accepting things as they are and accepting how we've been dealing with life isn't working, how we've been using alcohol isn't working. Complete surrender is the gateway to finding this courage. Alcohol has been our crutch for far too long, and it no longer offers any support, if it even ever did in the first place. It's become a liability to our very lives and any hope of experiencing happiness. True surrender will enable us to consciously choose right action for our happiness and our well-being. It's a journey, but when that surrender is complete, you'll find that a lot of the struggle exists only in our minds. It's a mindset of struggle, and the new mind will arise out of surrender and right action. Freedom is a real possibility. So if happiness can be a conscious choice and can become a habit, what about unhappiness? Indeed, none of us are consciously trying to be unhappy, but we're human and our psyches are conditioned in really complex ways. And there are aspects of us that are just part of human nature, and that's what's enabled us to survive over the millennia. We naturally seek comfort and pleasure, and we naturally avoid pain. We find comfort in what's familiar and safe and stable. And, depending on our childhood conditioning and, the influences that we grew up around, we might have this deep-seated sense of unworthiness that maybe we don't deserve certain things in life. Maybe we have an unconscious belief that life is supposed to be complicated and hard, and that happiness is just overrated. So we go through life, and misery is our companion on a deep unconscious level. And these attitudes can develop based based on our experiences in life, starting in our formative years. So using alcohol to escape our inner pain, well, that's the method that we adopted. It was our way to quell the feelings of our deep unconscious unhappiness. And all we know is how to experience, this superficial, you could call it fake happiness, because anything better is just not in the cards for us. And at this point, we can't even fathom true happiness. So we have to get to the point where we recognize these patterns in ourselves. Sometimes, a support system in the form of therapy or a group, can be helpful. But the choice and the responsibility comes down to us, the individual. We may not be responsible for the things that happen to us, that influenced our mental conditioning, but we are the only ones responsible for helping ourselves get better. Looking for someone or something external to us to do the work, for us, it just doesn't work. And I'm sorry, but those are excuses. It's time to take a really good look in the mirror at the only person who can create a new life where happiness is possible. So what exactly is happiness? As humans, we like to package everything in a conceptual or mental framework with all kinds of conditions that must be met. We do the same thing with our happiness. Our definition of happiness might include, wealth and perfect relationships and all sorts of worldly success and all the pleasures in life. That might include even alcohol. But anytime we put conditions on happiness, it can become kind of dangerous territory because happiness is then tied to the external. Whatever is external to us is essentially out of our control. That's why we miss the mark so often. And, these momentary pleasures do not constitute true happiness. They're only fleeting. If that is our definition of happiness, well, no wonder it's so elusive. Happiness is unconditional, and it's better defined as an inner sense of general well-being, where there is a sense of unattachment to the external as validation for it. This happens when we develop an okayness inside of ourselves. This part of the acceptance statement says, happiness is a habit that I am developing. Happiness is created and it's not waited for. It is created when we consciously choose to do the inner work. And a lot of the inner work is just letting go of our hang-ups. We do this because we are now insisting on feeling better. We insist on redefining what we know happiness as. Surrender, my friends, is the gateway. Rumi said, the wound is the place where the light enters you. So now we're going to look at happiness with fewer strings attached, and it's a lot more liberating. Less is more definitely applies to our new definition of happiness. Our old mind tended to complicate everything, saying things like, well, I can only be happy if this or if that. The new mind is liberated. It loves simplicity, and it's okay with not having an explanation for everything. And if you have been watching these videos, you know I like to talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness is, I am present, here and now. I'm just being. I'm just existing. I'm not identified as a thought. I am sensing the closer than close of true nature. Simple, open awareness. Not grasping, not pushing, not struggling. It's just simple and it's free. The past is gone and the future doesn't exist. There is just this. The more we practice this, the more a sense of well-being will be habituated in us. Chronic alcohol use does not want you to know about this. It only wants to keep you stuck on the surface level of your mind, trapped in unhappiness and despair. So to wrap things up, we've talked about unhappiness being a habit that we can develop. We create it for ourselves. We don't wait for it to come in the form of an external condition. It reminds us of our personal agency in our own recovery from disordered drinking and our healing and our discovery of happiness and the well-being within. And as I said, we have erected alcohol as this barrier to finding joy, but we can also tear down that barrier through surrender and through the courageous new mind that will arise. And my friends, if you are anything like I was, it is a matter of life and death. And I hope you can find it in yourself to go on this brave journey and experience an adventure of personal discovery and what true happiness is. Even though we explored a new life statement from WFS.org, please note that I'm not in any way affiliated with the organization other than being somebody who greatly benefited from the program and their materials while I was on my own journey to sobriety. Once again, I hope you found value in this video, and if you did, please share it with somebody you think it might encourage. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next time.